All right, good evening and welcome, traders. It is Thursday, February 8, 2024. We're going to jump into our portfolio review here. We're also going to jump in and take a look at the markets. Another good day, new all-time highs everywhere. Markets just unrelenting to the upside. Are we running out of steam? We'll take a look at that. So we'll take a look. What we got to do is we got to get some trades on because trades have been coming off. And we have not put on as many as fast as they're coming off as winners. So we got to get some trades on. So let's take a look today. We'll see what we can find to trade. And then we'll see if we can maybe put a couple of those trades on during this session. So let's jump in first and take a look at the market. And this is where I start every single night. I want to start and then we want to take a look at what's the market doing and where should we be potentially looking for opportunities. SPX was almost dead flat today, just hovered right around that 5,000 mark. Couldn't really get the job done. We were close on SPY here. We were at 498.71 on the session. So the high of the day, 498.71, but that's not going to get us there. So maybe tomorrow is the day we hit 5,000. Everybody celebrates, and then who knows what happens next week. But if we take a look at the overall market profile here, take a look at the weekly. And if we're looking at the weekly, moving averages are stacked and moving up. You've got strong momentum on the squeeze. You got RSI, strong momentum moving higher and overbought. And you got the MACD moving higher. So right now you've got a really strong bearish move on SPY, but getting overbought. If we look at the daily here, you've got all of your moving averages stacked and increasing. You got MACD rising, you got RSI rising, and you got the squeeze rising. So we squeezed back in here, we broke, and the momentum's been to the upside. So overall, very bullish on the markets. We're not quite overbought here on SPY on the daily, and we're not, even though we're hitting new highs, RSI is not hitting new highs. Been saying that for a couple sessions now. Does that mean we're going to tip over and pull back? It doesn't mean anything at this point, except the fact that you're getting some divergence in RSI, but you're not really seeing it anywhere else. We could continue to power a little bit higher, maybe for a couple more sessions. We'll see what happens if we keep moving. So there's SPY. Let's take a look at the Qs and see what this looks like. Now, with SPY being overbought and moving higher, I just don't see opportunities necessarily to trade a whole lot in ES, but I think it's also a good opportunity to make sure you've got some decent hedges because you're overbought, and potentially we'll see if the market turns over, but we're not getting signs that the market's turning over yet, but putting on a 112 here would not be the worst thing to try to catch the trap on the downside. If we look at the Qs, new all-time highs still this week and new all-time highs today. Pretty much the same thing. We're powering higher on the weekly. We're getting too overbought. We're moving higher on the daily. Little more flat, and we're definitely not hitting new highs on RSI. So it's almost the identical piece here, being driven by the tech stocks, primarily in the Qs. We're going to just keep extending this trade higher, or this trend line higher. But right now you're bullish on the Qs as well. So bullish on SPY, bullish on the Qs. If we take a look at IWM, gotta fix that in Tasty so it's not triggering a order every time I try to make it a move on something here. And take a look. Let's get these adjusted back to where they were. All right, let's take a look. So if we're looking at the weekly chart on IWM, you've got moving averages moving higher. They're not all stacked, but they are moving higher. But you got MACD tipping over, RSI pretty flat, and squeeze has been good momentum to the upside recently, even on the pullback. I think this thing can still move higher, even though the weekly is a bit weak. You've got your moving averages higher. You're breaking above the 9 EMA. The 21's already above the 50, and it's about to break the 200. You got a bullish PR, so it's a very bullish looking chart. If we look at the daily, pretty flat here, but you're in a long squeeze. So this is a long squeeze. It could be really setting up for IWM to take off and roll, and especially I think to the upside, because I think that's where right now I think that's where everything looks to be headed, is moving ourselves to the upside. So you're breaking above the 9 and 21 today. You've been just hanging around. You break it, You hold it, you break below, come back up to it, hold it. It's just a bit of this 21, this debt is almost flat in here. And that's what you're seeing here. RSI has been flat, doesn't get overbought, doesn't get oversold. MACD really not getting any strong momentum, and you're in a tight squeeze dating back to the 30th here. So 8 sessions of squeeze on this one with a big move today. I think you get some more pullback potentially or some weakness in the S&P. I think this thing starts to move higher. I like IWM here for something bullish. We'll take a look at maybe a trade there. So make that note of that. IWM potentially a bullish play. Stocks above their 50-day moving average stayed about the same, hitting about 63%. We've been seeing it selling off. We've been losing momentum here, but the markets are just not reflecting this. So what's happening? The markets are hitting new highs, but the S&P stocks above their 50 continues to drop. It's just been dropping now for 5 to 6 weeks now of down move, but the markets are hitting new highs. That means, again, as everybody's probably aware, you just have a few stocks that's driving the entire market. VIX hitting new lows today for the week. So we're just hitting the bottoms here on VIX. If we look at the dollar today, rose fraction, had a decent move going, and then it gave most of that back, or at least a good chunk of that back. This uptrend continues to stay intact, and you did break this ascending triangle. So I think you have still good momentum to the upside, even though your internals on the daily aren't really strong. It's really weak sideways, but your internals on the weekly have been moving up. So I think overall, I think this uptrend continues on the dollar, which is going to certainly impact where markets are going. And if we take a look at the 10-year yield, it has been moving higher on the weekly. We're about to break potentially, and a good either up move tomorrow or beginning of next week. We could trigger a PSAR bullish signal, so that could get us started a little bit more rally to the upside. We've just been really trending sideways, had a little bit of a sell-off, and then that quickly rebounded. But look now, we got MACD, RSI rising higher, and I think if you really want to take a look, we can put in a bit of a trend line in here as well. And if we break above this, 42 on the TNX, so if we get back to 42 or so here, I think you could see some more movement to the upside. So I think rates could go higher, which is going to put some pressure on bonds, but bonds reacted decently today. All right, let's take a quick look at our futures trades. Had a pretty strong update on oil. I mean, we're bullish on oil personally. We've been running this uptrend. You get a bullish PSAR signal. The weekly looks strong and moving higher. You're about to break through the 50. So you get momentum now on oil to the upside, even though you are above the 200, but all your moving averages are not stacked, but they're getting tighter in here. So I think we could get a really good run heading on oil. I'm still very, very bullish on oil. Big update today. I hate to put on a trade right after an update like this, but I really like where it is. And I think now that you're back to the 21 in here, it's setting itself up for a potential strangle. So if we look at oil, we could do a strangle. We could also do a 1-1-2 trade because we have the bullish move here. We could also do a ratio spread. We could also sell naked puts. We could do a lot of things potentially in oil here. And the uptrend on the daily just continues here. I like oil, and look how tight these moving averages are in here on the daily. You've got the 9 breaking the 50, you get the 21 about to break the 50, the 9's above the 21 moving higher, and we're heading back to the 200. So we're on a collision course with all the moving averages colliding, and then potentially us moving higher above it. Today was a big indicator day. We'll see if we give a little bit back tomorrow. If we take a look at gold on the session, this weekly triangle continues. It's so sideways. I mean, this movement has just been sideways for weeks and weeks and weeks, getting tighter in this triangle. that we have. We look at the daily, that continues to hold in here. Look how tight this is. This has just been days and days and days and days and days of just sideways gold action as the squeeze continues to form. You get some momentum pending up. Now you do have a bearish PSAR signal here, but you are right in the middle here. You're just over your 21 EMA. I think gold is also setting itself up to be strangled or potentially some 112s or something along those lines. If we take a look at copper, it's had a pretty down week overall. So copper has not had a great week. This week, momentum's been heading lower. So we've got momentum heading lower. I didn't want to put any trades on in here because we're breaking the 50 heading down. So right now we've got good momentum to the downside. I do have some copper trades on. I've got a put debit spread. It's got 18 days left in it, and we're getting close to entering the trap on that one. And then we have a strangle going, and that strangle's doing just fine. That strangle's up 30% in 24 days. So I like where a strangle is if we don't sell off too much more from here. But you've got a really strong downward move. You broke back here. You know, this good downward momentum, squeeze firing a bit to the downside. I just don't want to touch this thing at all right now. On copper, I'm going to just let this trades that we have play out a bit and wait for this momentum to start to subside a bit. If we can find some support in here, I think that would be great. We're heading down to the 3 ATR, so we might start to be heading to overbought. Well, we're just not there, and the momentum is down. I'm staying away from copper at this time, even though it's one of my favorites. And then bonds, we talked about bonds. We talked about the rates moving up today. We're in a pretty good sideways move. This triangle that we've been in, we did break down below this support line or this trend line today. We're in a PSAR bearish signal, and you've got your moving averages moving lower. The 9 definitely heading, it's already broken the 21 and heading lower. So you've got bearish momentum on the daily and bearish momentum a bit on the weekly or sideways. So right now, I think bonds continue to just move their way side. This is really a lot of sideways action in bonds, but more than anything, I think they're weaker. But I don't expect rates to really jump a whole lot. So I think rates can pull back because I think they were overdone to begin with to the downside, but I don't think it's going to be heavy. So I think you're seeing just some weakness in bonds right now. But if the market starts to sell off a bit and get going, I think bonds is an opportunity. But I think you can strangle this in here and continue to do pretty well. All right, 6A, if we look at the Aussie dollar, it's in a pretty solid down move on the weekly. So I'm not really touching it right now after it broke to 21. I'd like to see a little more of a sideways action. We're not, and we're also bearish on the daily chart. So if we're going to be bearish weekly, bearish daily, as the dollar continues to head higher, I'm just staying out of these for right now. I'm not going to jump into the euro either. This downtrend just continues on the euro, and I don't want to play with it until we start to see some divergence between the weekly heading down. Now, maybe this week you're getting this bit of a hammer, with the long tail down here. That could signal maybe we're coming to an end. But if you're looking at the MACD and the RSI and squeeze, they're all heading lower on the weekly. So I think you could see more downside to go, because if we're looking at the dollar, I think you get a lot more upside to go. So I'm not going to touch Forex in here right now. I'm almost never touching the Widowmaker here of Nat Gas, so I'm not going to play with this thing at all. Super negative on the weekly. We've known that for weeks, so we've been out of it. We don't play with this thing for the most part, unless we get to a reversal level down here. But right now, maybe that's possible, but RSI is not overdone. So until that happens, we can't do anything about trading in here. I'm not trading. This is pretty sideways too. If you look at the 10-year bond, that thing looks a little bit better to trade. I mean, I think this is a very strangleable type, and not a great word, But I think this is a pretty interesting sideways move to slightly negative. But the daily is just really sideways as well. So I think the 10-year looks like it might be a better trade than the 30-year. So we'll keep an eye on that. And we're taking a look at LE. This thing has just been off to the races. It broke the 50 with strong momentum. I'm been out of it. I don't have anything on here. I'm not going to trade it right now while this thing is in a rocking momentum. It broke here to the upside. We had this wedge pattern. So in an ascending wedge, we broke out with pretty much a violent move to the upside. You had bullish PSR. This thing was turning. I think you just stick away right now. Now you are overbought and maybe starting to tip over. So we're above the 3 ATR. I'm not going to touch it till we get back inside and we get closer to the 21 for like a strangle. So I'll stay away from this for right now. It's not something that I want to play with. Anyway, I think that gives you a pretty good idea of what we can trade. We've already put down about 4 different underlyings and trades that we can get into. Big movers on the day. Of course, semiconductors just back to near all-time highs. Retail up strongly on the session. Industrial or biotech up on the session. Oil up on the session. Energy. This thing's looking pretty interesting here as well. So energy could be getting going. I think this is a good spot to potentially get long some energy as you start to take a look at maybe somewhat of a ascending triangle here. This looks pretty good for a breakout on energy. So it's something I would certainly be keeping an eye on. The weak ones today, utilities, financials, but they're still all, that's at near highs. You've got healthcare popping up to highs. Here, we'll just keep adjusting this thing. But I don't want to play with sectors too much today. And if we take a look at most of the stocks on the session, you had Apple give back a little bit here, a little weakness in Apple. You got Microsoft up a bit, so they're just offsetting each other. They have not really been in sync for the most part here. Apple's been trending lower while Microsoft's been trending higher. They seem to not be in tandem. Amazon gapped and still hanging up there while its partner Tesla seems to be bouncing. So is this it for Tesla? Is this the downside? Is that in? It's a pretty good reversal candlestick here. You're not oversold at all, but I think it's an interesting area to be in. And you've got a good reversal going on here on the daily. So daily looks pretty good and bouncing. I think you could certainly be selling some put credit spreads in Tesla. I'm not going to trade stocks, but it's something you could certainly take a look at. And then Meta, the gap, it's holding up decently well. And then Google, I really like this bounce and this move here. I like it on Google. All right, let's get out of this and get into our particular trades and see where we are. Let's move out of the Discord here and jump into the dashboard. And let's look at where we ended the day. So today is the 8th. I did not get my numbers updated, so let's just do that quickly. It's after hours, but we'll take these numbers. Let me make sure that we've got the best numbers going and trading. So delta wise, right now we're sitting at minus 59 delta. Our theta is at 954, so we've lost a little more theta. We did close a trade today, but so theta is getting lower, delta is getting lower. The net lick 426,167. That's yet another new all-time high. So we're now up almost 8% on the year so far. BP usage sitting at 226,834. Which is 43%. So we definitely have room to play some trades. And we made $240 today. But just to cover what those trades were on the session, we have a ratio spread that came off today, almost 40-some% in 17 days. So a ratio spread on oil pulled in $240, 41%, 3.3% return on margin in just 17 days in the trade. It was close to 50, but I got a tasty trade. You can't take trades off in one fell swoop. So you get slippage when you're trying to pull the different legs off. So frustrating with Tasty. It's probably the biggest drawback on that platform is just the inability to put on and take off multi-leg trades in one order like Toss and some others can do, and IBKR. I don't know when they're going to get into the 22nd century or 21st century or even the 19th century on trading. I love the platform. I love the ease of use. I love the way it displays things. I hate the fact that I can't get in and out of my trades or analyze as well as Toss. But I think the benefits still outweigh some of those drawbacks. All right, so let's take a look at the IRA on the session today. Didn't close anything. And so this thing is definitely probably being underutilized. So let's take a look at this today's info. Delta is 116. So Delta dropped a bit. Theta here is 177. So our theta is dropping. Our net lick 251, 556. Not a new all-time high, but buying power 81, 582. We're just running out of stuff to trade. We got to get some trades on. No realized gains, but we're up almost we're up 8.8%. We're up half our gains for the month already. It's only the 8th, and we really haven't done a whole lot of anything. Then we'll take a quick look at this small account quickly, and then we'll jump into something else. Okay, 2/8. Let's take a look at this. 12.29. So 12.29. We are at 15.836. So there's another new all-time high. Great. 50.86 on buying power. Buying power is super low. We got to get some trades on here. I'm not liking trades for a lot of these accounts, but we did identify a few things tonight. So what can we do in this? Let's just jump quickly. We got after hours trading, or the opening of the futures. Is great with us because you can trade futures pretty much anytime 23.5, 23.6, 23.5.5, something like that. Because you get half a night on Sunday and then the other 5 days a week. So I love that. Love the ability to do that. If we take a look in here at the account, oil was one of those. We did take some stuff off in oil today. And what do we got? We've got a 112 trade here. This is just to put debit spread. So I expect that thing to just expire for a full loss. It's just to put, we've already paid for it with the naked puts. Here's a 112. This thing's up decently. Nothing to do there. There's another ratio spread working down here. We'll see. We're up decently on that ratio spread. And then we've got a strangle that's 40% in 15 days. That's probably close to us wanting to take that off, but I'm going to leave it because I just don't have, I'm going to have to put even more trades on, so I might as well just let it make me a little bit more money. And then we've already adjusted the put debit spread on this baby, and it's doing just fine here. We've got quite a few trades. It's a decent amount of capital. Can we put something else on? I don't know that we can put anything on in oil that's not going to interfere with what we have. I do think strangles might be an opportunity. This 98 days might be something to take a look at. Let's see if we go down to 58, and then which is pretty low. And then if we take a look at something around, I think this is bullish, so I think you got to be a little careful to the upside. I'm going to go to 100 just to stretch things out a bit. If we take a look at this strangle, we move that upside out a bit, so we're skewed to the upside, but I think oil is bullish. So I'm going to go back and make sure I'm looking at my charts, but I like where oil is. Can it run into the 80s? I think it can. Can it run to the 90s? Maybe. So I would like to be a little farther away here. We had a 112. It's only on for 14 days, and we were making pretty good money. So a 112 here would probably be the best thing. But the strangle's not bad. We're making some pretty good money on this particular strangle. Looking at our accounts right now, from a strangle standpoint, we have how many? We've got 5 strangles running, so I don't know that I want to put another strangle on. That would probably exceed my strangle allotment, but I think we do have 2 112s on here. And we've got this March one and this April 112. So we've got 2 112 trades. I don't know. I kind of like I kind of think I want to go back to another 112 trade. Let's just see if we overlap. We can go 69 days. We can get a 112 trade on. Let's move it up a tad. Skew it to the bullish side. Maybe something around 60. All right, so let's take a look at this particular trade. Okay. I love how this thing looks on oil. We're all the way up here. We've got great room to run. If we drop back, we can make even more. Let's take a look, though, at adding another 112 trade here on oil. How's this trade shape up? Making 430 bucks on $10,000 in BP. Okay. Now we're making 430 on 500 BP in this main account, and I think that's what we want to take a look at. So we look back here, take a look at our trades. I mean, we do have 2 of them on right now, but I think we still have the opportunity to trade in here. So let's take a look and maybe put one of these on. Okay. Let's just keep adding some 112s potentially in here. So let's trade this sucker out. The April one we have on is 57, 73, 74. And this is a little bit lower. 430 on 500 in 69 days is 430 divided by 52, 53. So that's 8% in 69 days. It's a good return trade. So that's something to take a look at. Let's see if we go to 2. Normally, when we're putting these on, we're doing maybe 3. Okay. Our max loss would be something that we size that the trap here would be, 2x, a 2% of our piece, or I could of our net lick, or I could look at this, and if I double the, this is $1,000, a 2x loss here would be like 2,000 using I'm sorry, I got 6 contracts. So this would be about $3,600 loss with a 2x loss. That's not bad. That's still well under like 1%. So we could probably increase this more if we wanted. We did put a kind of a unique trade on yesterday. So here's a thought that let's say we go up just a bit more on this particular trade. And what if we just reshape this a bit? We're making very good money now, 21,000 in buying power to make 1720. And still, and again, 8% is pretty good. We could give up a little bit of that and maybe move this up to, let's say, 72 and 71. All right, how's this thing shaping up right now? So we're still making 1560 now on 21 or 8. That's 7% in 69 days. I think that's not too bad. If we move this down, does it really affect it much? If we go to 58, so if we shape this, we're not getting enough credit. I think 59 might be an opportunity. So here, 1160 divided by 18,953, 6% in 69 days. Not bad, but we've moved up the, why not just stick it at 60? I think this is a good trade. So I think we're just going to get another trade on here. So we'll put the 60 on later. Okay, so we'll see if we get some fill, see if we get filled on that. And then I also wanted to go to the 60 down here. I think I need to do 8 of these. So this thing's, I got 4 of these. So we need to do 8 naked puts in oil, and we're going to put these on at 35, and we're going to let this thing go. All right, so we'll let that work. We'll see how oil moves overnight. I'm wondering if oil would give us a little bit of a pullback after a big up day today. If it does, we're going to get filled on the puts. We might not get filled on the put debit spread. We'll keep looking at this trade, so we'll see. It's going to chew up some theta for us. So I think that's a good trade just to get some theta going. And then I'd like to get something on in gold. In gold, we felt like a strangle would be an opportunity. We're in this one for, we've been in this one for 14 days. I think we've been looking at these gold strangles. I think we could probably put on another unique trade in gold. They don't work well for 1-1-2 trades. So gold's a terrible 1-1-2 trade to put on. It just doesn't set up well. Okay, so if we tried to put something on in gold, take a look at how this would work. Okay, so we got that. Yeah, so here's what we would be looking at. So here's why gold doesn't set up well. This is a typical 1-1-2 setup in gold, but you can see that you just don't get, it's using a lot of buying power, and you're just not getting a return. $280 on 280 divided by $7,500. That's only 3% and 77. That's terrible. The trap is probably bigger. We probably need to focus on like a 5 wide in gold. You don't get much of a trap, but I think that's okay. 1915 on gold. That's not a bad strike down here. We could probably try to get a little more out of this thing. Maybe go 1920. Now, how does this thing shape up? 460 on 7,900. So 460 divided by 79.15. Well, now we're at almost 6%. So we're getting there, but we're not quite there. So what can we do? Buying power is the problem in gold. Okay? It always is. They just don't set up well. So one of the things we could do is turn this thing into maybe a 1-1-2-1, something along that line. So how does this change it? So now what have we done? Okay, we've added this, just a single put down here. Okay, we added that 1 put, long put. I'm not adding it for hedging or any other purposes. I'm really adding it to ease my buying power. Now we're making $310 on 49.38. Okay, so now we're making a little over 6%. So now we got 6% in this trade. So now this trade's a little bit better. I would maybe bulk the size of this up. Let's go to 3 shares. Where I would like to at least make close to $1,000 up here. So this is a much better looking trade for me here. If you move this around, if you move it up, we make less. If we move it down, okay, it's not helping our buying power as much, but it's giving us more income. Okay, so now we're making over 1,000 here. So it's 1,020 on 16,131. So now this is still about 6%, and this puts a little bit lower. Yeah, will it give us some kind of a hedge or something? I really don't care. It's only here. Its only use in life down here is to give us buying power relief. I could also increase these contracts a bit, okay, which would reduce the buying power a lot more. Okay, so this is something else to take a look at. We've got less credit now with that. And maybe we don't need to stick to a specific ratio. Maybe we can do 4 or something. Okay. And now you're making 940 on 13,587. So now you're about 7% in 77 days. So this is a little bit better trade now. If we stuck with 3, got something like this working, maybe this is the best trade. So 1,050 on 16,131, 6.5%. I would have liked the 7. There's nothing else we can do here, I don't think, to make this hopeful at all. So I think we'll stick with this particular trade. So we're going to do this setup. So we'll sell a narrow put debit spread up here because I'm bullish. I think I'm bullish to side to neutral on gold. The other thing we did the other day was we actually took this thing, and I'm going to delete it out, okay? And we, instead of putting it down there, because we're bullish on gold, but I think gold's, a good strangle opportunity. I think it could break out to the upside if the market sells. But the other thing we could do would be to sell a call. So what if we sold, since we have this put down here at 6, we could potentially come up here and sell some calls somewhere around 2280 or so, which is pretty decently, they're talking 5-6 delta. If you really want to, go further, we can maybe go up a little bit more even. We already have something on that's kind of similar up there. So now let's look at this curve. Okay, so now here's what we've done in this particular trade, right? So we've enhanced our credit significantly. Our buying power is up a bunch. So we may have to pull back on some contracts. Right, the calls. And what if we added more calls? So now this is a 4224. Here we're going to make, it's like a triangle. We could potentially head down a bit on this and reshape it thusly. Okay. So if we do something along these lines, we make a little bit bigger trap in case we move down. Okay. And now we've got 1260 here on 10,555, right? So now we're making 12% on this trade. Now 12% is pretty significant on this trade. That 1880, okay, this thing's down here around 3 delta. Okay, so that's pretty doggone far out of there. And you've got a good ways to go up here. So it's a pretty good strangle with a bump in the middle of it. And we have some gas to move around in here. This is, if we move this up, in fact, let's move it way up. Okay. So something along the lines of this, particularly where we make 1,300 on 10,000. So we're making 13% on this trade. It's a pretty nice looking curved strangle. If we sell off even a little bit, okay, into this area. So right now, gold's sitting at 2069. If it drops 30 points at all, we're in this trap. And the trap starts to pay off. Maybe we can go a little bit bigger on this trap. This thing is still making 920 on 10,650. This thing's making 86, 8.5%. I kind of like this one even better, that if we've moved the put debit spread, we've made a really big trap up here. And we're in good shape. This call is way the heck up here at 22.75. Maybe maybe it could go a little further. Okay. So we can give up a little bit of room here. So all right, so here's one. This one is $1,200 on 11,815. So you're 10% in 77 days. And if we head down at all, we're going to really start to pay off. So I think this is a pretty good opportunity. So this is a good trade I'm going to put on. We're going to book it. We'll let the members know. I know I've kept you guys on for a long time tonight. So let's get off of that for you. Hope this is a little bit inside the crazy mind of the 112s. It's like the Swiss Army knife of trades. You can play with it. You can add puts. You can add calls. You can subtract. You can add. What I like to do is once I get a trade on, even if it's a complex structure like this one, which is a 4-2-2-4, or whatever the heck you like, okay, I'll play around with it a little bit more. We'll get it figured out. But once you put it on, then you can start to adjust it based upon your portfolio deltas and the deltas out there. All right, hope this was helpful. If you really like this video, click the like button. I could use the likes. Let's get the word out to everybody. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber on YouTube. Tell your friends, get them all. Let's get everybody on here. And if you want to see how this trade turns out, and you want to see what I actually put this trade on and how I describe it, join the Discord and get into the community there. Learn from some great traders as well. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.